Welcome to Sponsorship Mode. This episode is sponsored and brought to you by Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it is the easiest way to make a podcast. It is actually how we make our podcasts here on Panic at the Podcast. So let me explain real quick to you guys what Anchor is exactly. It's free, for one, always great. There's creation tools in the app itself that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more places. Seriously, guys, it is so easy to use and very user-friendly. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership while using Anchor. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So feel free to go and download the free app Anchor or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's ANCHOR.FM to get started. Thank you again, Anchor, for sponsoring this podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to Panic at the Podcast. I'm Megan. Michaela is not here today, and it's time to Panic at the Podcast. I feel like without Michaela being here, there's a little bit of extra reason to be panicking at the podcast. I have not recorded a solo podcast ever. I am in the process of starting my own podcast channel, but I'm not there yet, you know? So this will be my first one ever recording all beside myself, apparently, is what I was going to say. It's a bummer to not have Michaela here. This was going to be a really fun discussion that we actually had planned for in a couple of weeks. But once I looked and, was trying to figure out what I was going to record when I learned that she was not going to be available this week, this was kind of the only option, which is a second bummer because I'm not back in the van yet. I was hoping to record this from the van and all of that stuff and just kind of have it be that whole vibe, but we're not back in the van yet. So we're just kind of handling it, dealing with it, whatever. I'm still in the apartment. It's a disaster. I'm looking at a huge mess. I'm having the hardest time concentrating today because we're in the process of going through stuff and kind of purging all of the things that we've learned that we just don't need and are able to get rid of and all of that. So, trying to just get through all of the things, So, but bear with me. This one will be a little bit less or a lot less of a conversation and more of just me talking. I'm going to answer some questions, tell you a little bit about van life, and this will probably be a shorter episode just because it's just me. If you guys are at all interested in more things like this, definitely let us know. I'm going to do a poll over on our page and see if you guys would like to see kind of like a day in the life with van life or anything like that, like over on our Instagram stories. If not, no worries, don't mind. I just want to make sure that we're being more interactive over on stories on Instagram with things that you guys enjoy. I did that quiz and I got so much interaction, which was so much fun. We're not doing this to try and get like more people to like us, but we just really want to like interact with you guys because it's fun. I love interacting with the podcasters that I love listening to, and I love interacting with you guys. So I would just love to hear if that's something that you guys would enjoy or not. Let us know. I'll do a poll over there. I say tomorrow, but I mean Wednesday when this goes live. I'm just recording this on Tuesday. So I have lived in the van for a little over a year now. We moved into it the beginning of June of 2019. And then we did a partial conversion. Well, actually, we didn't do a jack of a conversion. We built a bed. When we moved into it, we lived in it for like 3 days and we were like, this isn't going to work. And so we built a bed in the Lowe's parking lot in just a few hours, the two of us having absolutely no construction experience. And it was wobbly and terrifying. And it was so tall that I had to climb on the cooler to get up. I think Danny could get up. I wish she was here and we could be having this conversation together, but I'm pretty sure she could get up there, but she's quite a bit taller than me. She's like between 5'10" and 5'11", and I am 5'7". So I had to like crawl on her cooler to get up there, and but we were able to hold all of our stuff. At the time, it was completely bare on the inside, no storage or anything, and so we just were trying to figure out what we needed to do in order to make it livable for like 3 weeks while we were taking kind of our vacation / drive from Texas to Oregon. We made it like a vacation. We drove to the Grand Canyon, spent a couple days there. We went to Four Corners. We drove the PCH, and we just kind of were able to take our time a little bit. And then when we got to Oregon, we started our conversion, and it's not done yet. We've got so much that we need to do. We need to get solar. We're actually going to do a remodel. We've learned that we just don't ever take our bed apart. So right now it has the ability to be benches or a bed, and we just don't ever do it into benches and put the table up. So we're going to loft the bed up a little bit so we have more storage underneath. So we just need to do it. We just haven't had the chance to, honestly. Nothing is really keeping us from it. We just don't have time or the resources that we need to. It would have been really ideal had we had the tools to do it while we were living in our apartment, but we don't. And we don't have the room for all of that stuff right now. So today I just want to go into these questions that I've got and tell you a little bit about our van and all of that kind of stuff. So for the nitty gritty details, if you care, it is a 148 inch wheelbase Ford Transit van. Well, that was a struggle for me. The Sprinter, actually, which is what we had looked at before, comes in a 144, and those 4 inches make them look so much smaller. They also do not get as tall, which is kind of why we chose the 2 reasons where it would costed less to buy a brand new Ford Transit than it did to buy a used Sprinter. And it was a little bit longer and a little bit taller, which we just appreciated all around. And we'd heard that people tend to have problems with Sprinters in just like very few years, and we just didn't really want to have to be replacing, anything major in our van in a couple of years. We knew that that's just not something we wanted to have to deal with. We'd heard better things about Ford, and you don't have to take it to a dealership or like a certified mechanic. You can take them pretty much anywhere. They're standard. It works a lot easier. And so that's why we went the route that we did with that. It is a 2019, and she has, I want to say we're getting close to 30,000 miles now. And we bought it with like 43 or something like that. Tiny little bit of miles. But we love it. We made the right decision. There's definitely hard times, but there's a lot of really good ones as well. We are figuring it out. I'll say that. But we really like it. We've been out of it for 5 months now, and I'm so ready to get back in it. So ready to get back in it. I miss it so stinking much. So, yeah, it's really cool. So, all right, let's get into these questions, and yeah. Our first question is, where do we stay at night / how do we find a place to stay at night? I would say right now that is the hardest problem that we have for the most part, or the hardest one that we have to deal with all the time is, where do we stay? We park a lot at Planet Fitness if they're open 24. We'll rotate in and out of those. Free street parking that's allowed 24 hours, which is a little bit easier to find in cities on weekdays. On your weekends, you're going to want to stay away, because unless you're going to bed super late, just because they tend to be full. Even with Corona, we were just over in the Fort Worth area. And we were just looking, what are we going to find over there? We won't be staying over there all the time. We were just curious. And so we had the hardest time finding a place to park. A lot of them have time limits. And so you just want to be looking for anything that doesn't have like a limit, or is a limit you can leave by. So set your alarm. Even if all you do is roll out of bed and you go move your car, you want to be out of there before you get towed or get a ticket. So we park at we parked at Walmart. We do truck stops. Those are loud though. So truck stops are not our favorite just because they're super loud. Rest areas, if possible. I don't know if I said this, 24-hour gyms, so like Planet Fitness, any like 24-hour fitness, things like that. Even if all you need is like a key fob to get in, there will generally still be other people in the parking lot, and they generally don't care. Home Depot, I don't know if I said Home Depot. Home Depot is a good one. Street parking, I think I already said that one, is good. You want to rotate though. We try to never stay in the same place 2 times in a row, simply because you never want people to know your routine. They might be good people and they might not. And always pay attention to signs. We will read and read and reread a sign to make sure that we're good in order to have the peace of mind when we go to bed so that we're actually able to sleep. Money. How do we make our income? Where do we get our money? Initially, Danny and I have both worked jobs on the road. We tend to try and work in the same place, even if we don't work together. We worked at a company doing delivery semi together. Sometimes we'd work together and sometimes we'd work with other people. That one was hard because our hours were all over the place, and we were exhausted. We pretty much worked and slept. We ate out a lot because we were so tired. We didn't want to have to like make dinner when we got home. And we had the same days off, which was nice. But if we ever didn't have the same days off, it kind of really messed with our routine. And then we worked at a warehouse together when we moved to Texas as a temporary job. And that was good because we worked almost the exact same time. But again, we were exhausted, but we had more days off with that job, which was nice. And then now Danny works a regular job. She works 6 hours a day, 6 to 9 hours a day, depending on the day. And then I work from home. I just started a company with my mom. And so I work doing that. We're not to the point where Danny doesn't need to work yet. And so we're going to stay in our area where we're at now until we are to that point. And then we will get Danny out of her job and hopefully she'll be able to start doing something from home as well, which would be really nice. Being able to work remotely is really nice. And there's tons of jobs out there that you could do that don't necessarily mean that you have to start your own. You just need to be looking for it. And I would love to talk more about that if anybody's interested, but I'm not going to bore you with the details on this one. How long have we been in the van? We've been in the van for I would say like almost a year and a half, but for 5 months we weren't actually living in it. We were living in an apartment. So a year, really. The favorite part of living in the van, that's a hard one. I think my favorite part is just the ability that like on our weekends, if we want to take like a vacation, we can. I love being able to wake up to like a pretty view or knowing that I don't have to pack for a trip. I kind of really I hate packing. So that's really nice for sure. What do we eat? Normal food. We eat all of the normal foods, really. We try and eat really healthy because we sit a lot. But other than that, anything that can be cooked on a stovetop is what we're going to eat because we don't have an oven. So or that doesn't have to be cooked. Where do you shower? We shower at Planet Fitness, truck stops, friends, families' houses, pretty much anywhere that you can get a free shower. We have Planet Fitness memberships, and I will say, having a Planet Fitness membership, if it's just you, all you really need is the $10. If it's two of you, you could both have a $10 membership, or you could have the $20 membership and have a guest. Kind of just depends. Which we have just always done a $20 membership. And then if one of us wants to have it and the other one doesn't want to have to pay for it, then we'll just have them be our guest. Which helps us get out of bed when somebody has to go to the bathroom. Planet Fitness is definitely a membership that I would suggest any van lifer check out. Obviously this is not sponsored. I feel like I have to say that. But it's really helpful because you can go in at any time you want to. Most of them are 24 hours, so you can work out in the morning, shower. They usually have like a hair dryer if you want that. In the locker rooms, they usually have pretty big locker rooms as well. Some of them have like little areas with like a really long mirror so that you can have like multiple people getting ready at one time. Tons of lockers. They're generally pretty clean. I would definitely make sure that you go in and make sure that they're open. Like right now with COVID, I know that a lot of them are closed, or like their locker rooms are closed, or they're running on weird hours and stuff. So I would just call ahead if you can, and see what they are doing there. Next question. What are the most important but least asked questions a future van lifer should know? That is actually a really stinking good one. And I wish I had seen this earlier. I could have made a list. I will answer with some of the things that I wish that I had known. There are apps that are really helpful. I'm going to look at them. That I wish that I had had. Boondocking is one. I've heard that the Dirt, or Dirt, D-Y-R-T, I think is how it's spelled, is really helpful. I don't think I have that one. iOverlander, super helpful. I feel like there's more. I'm looking. Sorry, guys. RV Parky is helpful. Even some like trucker apps are helpful. Yeah, DYRT, The Dirt is one of the apps. I do have it. The Van Life app is nice. The state park app, if there is one for the state that you're in, will help show you all of the state parks. Things like that are really nice for knowing where you can park at night or during the day, or spend a little while there. Some people also will have like information on their website, like Divine on the Road. I'll link her website into this one. She has really great resources on her Instagram, on her website, on her podcast, and all of that stuff. And she links all of her favorite places that she has parked over on her website. So if you're ever looking for a place to stop, super, super awesome. Really nice information there. And she'll list usually like the good, the bad, the ugly about those places and things that you need to know. I think another thing is that it has the potential to get really expensive, but it doesn't have to. You don't need to have the nicest van out there. You can start in whatever vehicle you have. There are people who live out of their car, like little tiny like sedan car. There are people who live out of Priuses. There are people who live out of, Jeep Wranglers. There are people who live out of minivans. There are people who have spent, $100,000 trying to buy like the perfect van. So you can really make it your own. We wish that we would have just taken the time and bought used. We didn't really have the time, but we wish that we would have somehow figured out the time. Instead of buying brand new, it would have been a much more cost-effective option, and now we're paying the price tag for that was just really not necessary. And then that said, our van build isn't done yet. We don't have running water. We don't have a fridge. We don't have solar. And we do just fine. So there's some things you need to like work around. We have a Goal Zero. I want to say it's like originally $500. We got it at an REI. It's like a REI sale that happens once a year. And so we got it for like 25% off. And then I had REI member rewards. And so with all of that combination, we ended up spending, I think, like $350 on it, which I know that's a lot of money. But hear me out. That will charge our phones for a week if all we do is just charge our phones. If it's our laptops, it'll charge my laptop and my phones for, I want to say like 3 days. And anything else that we need. If we have to run a fan through the night, we get one running of it, like a big fan. So if it's our little fan, that thing could go for 3 or 4 days nonstop. So you just have to know, like, there are workarounds. One thing that we were taking that in places and charging it, and it takes a solid 8 hours to charge. So then what we ended up getting when we moved, when COVID happened, and we were like, well, we don't know where we're going to charge it. We got a plug-in made by Goal Zero that plugs into your cigarette lighter and charges while you drive. And that has been a lifesaver. So anytime we start to get low, we know we're going to be driving for 20 minutes. We just plug it in. It gives us a little bit more if we're going on a road trip. We plug it in when we start. And we make sure that you unplug it every single time that you are not driving, because it does suck a lot of battery. For a cooler or a fridge, we have a cooler. We started out with a $50 Coleman cooler, which worked, but we got really bad condensation, which led to us getting mold. And so we ended up just biting the bullet and getting a Yeti. And while it is smaller, meaning that we have to go grocery shopping more often, there are workarounds, and we just have to get ice. When it's hot, we get ice about every other day. When it's cooler, we get ice twice a week, maybe at like most we'll do that. Showers, we just shower at Planet Fitness. We already talked about that. And it doesn't have to be this perfect, beautiful, Instagrammable van. That would be nice. I would love that. I love things that are aesthetically pleasing, and I would really like for my van to get there eventually, but it doesn't have to start there. I would say that if you have this drive to do it, start with whatever you have. Starting is the hard part, and you might be able to save the money starting it with, whatever you've got to be able to buy yourself a really nice van in the future. Instead of pushing it off, wishing you had that and wishing you had that and wishing you had that, and still having to pay, rent on your apartment or something, that you could have been saving all this time. I would say get, wherever you're going to be working, get yourself a VPN so that you can be using Wi-Fi without having to worry about anybody stealing your data. If you don't know what a VPN is, look it up. Lots of great information on YouTube. And if you're going to be going solo, make sure that you have multiple forms of, self-defense items. Whether you have a gun or pepper spray or a bat or knives or brass knuckles. I would also suggest that you take some kind of self-defense class. Danny and I haven't, but we would really like to. But we also are 2 people. And so while that doesn't make it too terribly much safer, being that we're both women, 2 is always better than 1 in a situation like that. So I would suggest those things. And then just do it. Just freaking do it. That's the biggest one. This is probably the most common question that we get is, where do you poop? In a toilet? We go into gas stations, rest areas, malls, stores. Whoever has a bathroom, we will go in there. We used to use our toilet that we have. We have a toilet in our van. But cleaning that thing out is the biggest hassle in the whole world. And so now we no longer do that. We have a different system that we're going to try out that we can update you guys on later, see if it works. But no, we just go to the bathroom in a bathroom. As an introvert, I hate it, like having to go in and interact with people, but it's better than not, you know? So yeah, we just go wherever. If we're in the woods, dig a hole, bury it. It's really not that hard. Is it hard having a small shared space? Yes, sometimes, for sure. It took us a while to get it figured out because we both are people who like to have our own time and to be left alone. And so we needed to figure out how to make that work instead of being able to be like, hey, I'm gonna go, hang out in the bedroom for a little while and I kind of want to be alone. I want to read my book in peace, to being like, hey, I'm going to go sit up front. Hey, I'm going to go into the mall. Hey, I'm going to go to this coffee shop and I'm going to just sit. I'm not mad at you. I still love you, but I need a little space. We need some time alone. And so I think the hardest thing is learning how to communicate with each other that you need that time, that you're like, hey, look, I love you. I need some space. Or I think for having a small space, it's really easy to have fights. And sometimes you need to just walk away. And so being able to be like, hey, look, we need to not do this thing today. I need a little bit of space, is really good. I think when you travel, it's probably a little bit easier because you're not necessarily cooped up in the van because you're in a city all the time. But I don't know. I can't say facts on that one. We also just tend to have a lot of stuff just because we have to have duplicates of a lot of things. We can't really share a lot of clothes. We're not really the same size. We don't wear the same size shoe. So it ends up being a lot of duplicates, which just take up a lot of space. And I would say that's a hard one. And I tend to bring in a lot of things into the van. I like things and I need to work on my minimalism. But yeah, overall it works. You got to have grace for the person that you're living with, and accept that it's going to be different and that sometimes you just have to be okay with being different. What do we use for power? Kind of touched on this one a little bit. It's a Goal Zero something. I can see it from here, but I can't read what it's called. That has USB ports. I think it has 2 USBs, 2 or 3, 2 regular plugins. I feel like that's it. Maybe it has like a car plug-in on the front that we charge everything from. And then to charge that, we can either take it in somewhere that has a plug-in, or we can charge it from our car. It just has, we got I want to say an adapter, but that's not what it is. Like a plug-in that plugs into our cigarette lighter that will also charge it. And that actually tends to charge it faster than the wall charger does. So if we're going to be driving for a while, we just plug it in there and we're good to go. How did we decide what van to buy? I feel like I also kind of went over this one, but I'll go over it again. The Ford Transit van is a little bit taller. It has an extra tall or extra high roof option. It has 3 or 4 options for roof heights, not roof. Oh, I can't talk. I'm not used to talking this much all at one time. Sorry. It's a lot. This is a lot of me. I'm really sorry. I wish this was a conversation that was being had. It's a little bit longer by like 4 inches than the Sprinter. And it was less expensive and it can be worked on by really anybody. Sprinters are a lot more specialized, and we had read that Sprinters tend to have a lot more issues. So that's kind of where we decided. Least favorite thing about living in a van? It's a hard one. I think living in a van and having to stay in a city is my least favorite thing. But having not known the difference, I couldn't tell you exactly. I don't like having to park at night. That would probably be my number one. I hate having to park at night and like figuring out where we're going to be. And then the question of like, am I going to have to interact with somebody because we're not parked somewhere that we can be parked, you know, whether we know it or not. That dreaded like knock on the door of like, you can't be here, you know, like, I don't want to have to deal with that. Where do you store your stuff? We don't usually store it anywhere, inside of our van, really. But recently, because we moved into an apartment, we're pretty sure we're going to be in an apartment again next summer. Just because we'll be in Texas a little bit longer, than we had planned on. We are keeping the things that we got for the apartment in the storage unit. So we're taking the advantage of that and moving all of our like winter stuff and like things that we held on to that we don't necessarily need, camping things that we have for tent camping and stuff like that. We're keeping all of those things in that storage unit as well. So we'll have a little bit more room in the van. And that will be helpful, I think, just for having space. And that's really it for questions. I'm looking right now to see if we got any more on our social media. And then if not, then we'll wrap up right there and move on. Oh, do we have any pets? No, we do not. We would really like to get a dog eventually, but probably not until we're living in the van full time. It's just kind of hard when we don't know where we're going to be next, for us to try and figure out how to deal with that. And if I ever had to get a job, then I just don't know what we would do with the dog. That would be really hard. So no, that's it. And that's all I really have to say. If you're at all interested in van life, you should go over and check out our page, and definitely vote on if you guys are at all interested in van life over on our Instagram. Be super interested to see if you guys want to see that. If you don't, no worries. A little like day in the life of van life or something, or week, or I don't know, something like that. You guys let me know. Head over there today and let me know. All right. I hope you guys have a really, really great day. Sorry this episode is so short. Not used to talking all by myself. But Michaela will be back hopefully next week. We will see you guys next week. Have a great week. Bye.